right, so once again, thanks everybody for joining us today. Very excited to get started with this week's TRU Snacks presentation, which is all around performance management and how to use financial performance management to improve operations and profitability. We are going to do this a little differently than the previous weeks. I know there's a number of repeat viewers on today, which is great. Thanks for joining us again. So we will run through our presentation as usual. We have our Q&A window open at the bottom, so we'd encourage you to pop into that Q&A box at any point during the presentation. And you can queue up questions as they come up, or questions that you think we might be able to get to at the end. But just given the content of this presentation, I think it's unlikely that we'll be able to save too much time at the end for questions. So we do encourage you to submit those as we go, and we'll try to answer as many live as possible. Corinne, we can go to the next slide. So today to talk about performance management, I'm going to kick us off. My name is Steve Ronan. I'm the principal and practice leader of our strategy and business transformation, as well as our outsourcing practice. Carlos Catalan, who's a director in our strategy and transformation practice focusing on finance, is going to join us as well. And Dan from Spotlight Reporting is also going to be with us to talk a little bit about performance management. I'll turn it over to Dan to do a quick intro.
Thanks, Steve. Yeah, certainly happy to be here. I'm the account manager for North America West for Spotlight Reporting. So my role is to help businesses beef up their reporting and forecasting capabilities and help them dive into their data and use their data for business decisions. And one of my also functions is to get with accounting firms, bookkeeping firms, advisors, CFOs, and help them roll out and implement advisory services. So definitely excited to be here, and definitely looking forward to the presentation here. Thanks, Steve.
Thanks a lot, Dan. We've been working with Dan on several accounts, and wanted to kind of showcase some of the findings that we've had today. So very excited to do that. So Corinne, we can go to the next slide. So what are we going to talk about today? First thing, we want to make sure that we couch this in the context of what the role of a CFO is. Performance management is one of the primary responsibilities of CFOs. And we'd like to talk about how this fits into their role and the role of their team in the business. We're going to talk a little bit about foundationally what's required to enable performance management, which really comes down to the operational excellence of the close and financial reporting process. Benchmarking and key performance indicators, as you might imagine, play a very important role as well. We'll talk about how to do that and what its importance is. And then finally, just using this process and this tool set to drive continuous improvement and feedback. So now I'd like to turn it over to Carlos, and Carlos will start walking us through this CFO role and how we think about performance management holistically. Carlos, over to you.
Sounds good. Thank you. Thank you, Steve, and I'm happy to be in this webinar with the rest of you guys. What the CFO role is, and then from a finance and accounting perspective, how teams are essentially working on. The way we like to define this is essentially the CFO has three main roles that they're really trying to drive initiatives internally, right? One of them is being the governor, taking this sort of a stewardship role. And then the other one is around the planner, strategic planning, kind of thinking ahead. And then the third one is related to performance management, right? So when you think about, the governor role, the finance and accounting team is focusing about, policies and procedures, internal controls, really protecting the assets of the business. And then also thinking about risk management, right? Is there any opportunities that they can think ahead and reduce any risks related to the business, right? And then the second piece of it around the planner is the CFO is really thinking about, how to really optimize their capital, right? It's either, purchasing or looking into new assets that will add greater value to the business, or for example, either pay debt or be able to just put that capital back into the business owners, right? And then I think the third piece of it is within the planner role, we also look at the CFO is thinking ahead, right? Thinking about budgeting and forecasting, what the plan look like for the business, working very closely with the CEO, and understanding what those metrics look like, right? So for today's discussion today, and if you can just click the next arrow, there you go. Thanks, Steve. For today's discussion, we're going to be drilling down to the performance management in our view around finance, right? And there's two main sub activities or groups in a way that the CFO and the finance and accounting team sort of divide this. Is one of them is the financial close and reporting process, and be able to really gain insights into your data, right? I think that's one of the primary keys and foundation elements that the CFO is really focusing on, of obtaining that value of their data and also accelerating that process as quickly as possible, right? And then the second piece of it is, once you got the data from a finance perspective, then you start analyzing that, looking into your metrics, what the data is telling you. And then the second piece of that is how you translate that information across the business. That's really, really important, especially for other departments, like, for example, marketing and sales. They don't have that finance background, so to speak. So you really need to try to translate that information to them, so that way they can make better decisions and really help you grow the business, right? So if we go to the next slide, we're going to drill down into what performance management is, right? And from a finance perspective, the way that we like to define this is be able to gather, synthesize, and translate finance and non-financial data into a common language that can be used across the business to make better decisions, right? It's very simple. So with that, obviously the foundation piece of that is, from a finance perspective, is you're already developing a financial reporting package on a monthly basis, right? And that obviously takes different shapes and forms, either from an income statement, a balance sheet perspective, and then looking at other type of like non-financial metrics that are important to you and to your business, right? But once you have that developed, right, those metrics, if you don't compare that to something else, that could be somewhat lost in the shuffle, right? It just doesn't really give you much value out of that. And that's where benchmarking comes into place, where we define in benchmarking into two main areas, right? You have this external industry metrics that you can use, or you have some specific type of metrics that are only specialized to your business. And it's important for you to drive that and manage your business going forward, right? So once you have these data points from where you are today to what you need to be externally and also internally, you start to develop action plans in KPI development, and then continue to refine those metrics to be able to navigate and manage the business. So when we go to the next slide real quick here, right here, what we have is a financial reporting package, right? We're using a technology, and we're accelerating the process. We're understanding and gaining visibility to the data. But essentially, this is some of the first step that for you're trying to make within your business to understand what that looks like. And today with me, we have Dan, who's going to be able to speak a little bit more about what that looks like, how you can use technology. But essentially, this is one of the first steps into the direction about gaining visibility to your data, understanding it, and then also communicate that within your business. Back to you, Dan.
Yeah, thanks, Carlos. Yeah, and before I kind of dive into that, I just want to stress how important it is to accelerate the close process for your books, because every day I go into work and I help businesses glean insights from their own data. And the sooner you can get on top of your data, the sooner you can start making business decisions based on that data. And that's what Spotlight reporting does, is we make the data digestible, we make it visible, and we make it actionable for your clients. So we have key visuals on the management reports, we have the ability to allow you to see a snapshot of your business, of what's going on. And we also have the ability to help you project into the future. So it allows you to take a high level 80,000 feet report, look at the action plan, look at the executive summary, and then dive all the way down into what are the specific metrics day to day that we can adjust to get you to your 5-year goal, your 10-year goal. And that's really what the CFO relationship starts as, is what are the key metrics that we can adjust to get you to, at the very least, industry standard, which is what you find out when you start doing the benchmarking. So yeah, we're a reporting, forecasting, budgeting, what if scenario tool set. So we'll partner with you, not only in terms of producing the outputs, but also in training you how to create the outputs, because there's several levels involved here: analysis, delivery, and also setting up the actual meeting between you and the client. So thanks, Carlos.
Oh, that sounds good. So if we go to the next slide right here, I think we have a couple of examples in some of the things that we have done with some of our clients, right? In terms of that visibility, one of the things that we have here, and obviously Dan can speak a little bit more about this, but from a P&L analysis perspective, one of the key elements here that CFOs really like to see is be able to see how you're trending between your actuals in your budget, right? And what does that look like for the rest of the year, right? And then on top of that, what are the specific metrics that you can look into your business that is going to be meaningful to you to have really good conversations with other departments and other teams in here. Anything else to add, Dan?
Oh, definitely. Yeah. It's so I know CFOs that live by the budget, right? That's what they start and end every day with. So what you have here are two examples of going from the snapshot of the business and diving deep down into what's actually driving these numbers. So on the right hand side, you'll see a sample dashboard set. This is a snapshot of what's going on in the business. This will be your thermometer for letting you know if there's anything that needs to be addressed immediately, or if there's things that need to be adjusted for the long term. When you want to dive into what's actually driving the metrics on the P&L, you'll look to the left-hand side and you'll notice it's not only a profit and loss, it's a profit and loss analysis. So you have your actual versus last year, you have your projection versus your budget, but you also have the visuals at the bottom, which are the key metrics that are driving the outcomes on the profit and loss. And that is, in terms of intervention on behalf of the data, that's really the starting place. So yep. Thanks, Carlos.
I think that sounds good. I think we can go to the next slide. So now that we have talked about the position around the CFO and also what to do, what point you get into the information, right? And you see your data, right? Now you're starting to really understand how you can use benchmarking and how companies are using this for, right? So there's three main components around why companies are using benchmarking and developing KPIs for. One is to drive performance, obviously, but also to drive process improvement, right? One of the things that you want to be able to focus on is understanding from an operation perspective how you're doing and what are the things that you need to be focusing on that is going to drive value to your business, right? And KPIs will help you have more tactical conversations and also what areas you need to focus on that needs improvement that can help you drive value to your business. The second piece of it is understanding your relative cost position within your industry and your peers, right? I think that's really, really important, especially when you're looking at your overhead or you're looking at your direct costs, right? Those are critical data points that really can help you say, well, are we having the right strategy around pricing, or are we hiring or resources that can drive sales, for example, right? I think that's really, really important. And the third piece of it is how you really get ahead of the game, right? How you really start to think about what are the opportunities within your industry and perhaps some of your competitions is really not catching up to, right? That can really help you accelerate and really put the foot into the gas pedal in a way that can really drive the differentiation and where you're playing in that industry, right? I think that's very important. On the next slide, what we have here is what we have done with clients right now is, one is understand what are those specific metrics, right? And one of them that is really, really important that we start off with is basically understanding your return on equity, right? And obviously that return on equity, it's a composition of other specific metrics around your profit margins, which is basically fully linked to your P&L information, right? That's what is key, that you need to be able to gain insights to your data. And the second piece of it, or the third piece of it, is related to your asset turnover, like inventory, payables, receivables, right? And then your equity multiplier around your business owners, right, of the business. And most of that information comes from your balance sheet, right? So that's why it's very critical that you focus on that foundation, understanding your data, and then also gathering that information that is going to help you drive those specific KPIs and metrics for your business. And then after that, what we do is we pull a specific data sources from which industry you're working in, right? And also the type of products and services that you have. And then we pull and extrapolate that information and then compare that to your KPIs and information that you have to develop what are the gaps that your business is having today, and then develop that roadmap and action plans for your business, right? So once you have those two pieces together, then you start to really think about, okay, what is our cost and profitability analysis, and how we can allocate our costs within the business and make better decisions, right? So we have a couple of examples on the next slide. If we can go to the next slide real quick. Okay, great. So in here, what we have is, and it's important that for the audience here today is that there's really four main metrics within your business, right? One, we talk about profitability, really understanding the efficiencies of generating profits from your sales, right? Then the second piece of it is productivity, which I like to call that like non-financial metrics or non-financial data, so to speak. But it's important that you know how efficient your team are working to increase value to your business. And then the third piece of it is financial position, right? That is become very critical, but also it requires more discipline to acquire that information and making sure that you are controlling your debt, right? And then also generating value to your current assets within the business, and making sure that the decisions that you're making today are going to drive that ROI on the IRR, which are very, very important as part of your capital budgeting process, right? And then the fourth one is cash flow, right? I think this is critical to make sure that you are managing your working capital and also managing and navigating your capital expenditures for your business, right? So here on the right, I'm getting a little old here, but if I can see that, what we essentially have when you look at, for example, we were to pick productivity, we had a client that it had different type of like call centers, right? So it call centers to them and having resources, making calls and try to get generate revenue out of that. To them was sales per square footage in terms of, the call centers were a critical metrics for them. So that's why they had it in here to be able to calculate what was the revenue against, your cost related to your sales. So that was very, very important to them, and also was important for that industry and see how top performers were doing on that, right? So if you look at here on the right, you can see how your metrics are gathering your current state snapshot of the company, but also at the same time gathering the specific metrics related to top performance within your industry. So we can go to the next slide real quick. I think the other component here, and with Steve, we were thinking that it will be beneficial for the audience today, is that I know we're focusing a lot about what those metrics are in terms of the industry, right? From different type of research and databases, which is, I think is fine. But the way we look at this is also from a process perspective, and internally, what we do is we talk to different teams. We talk to your people, right? And understand, how they are doing across their processes, their technology, their governance, to understand what are those gaps and how we can help drive initiatives internally. And this is one of the tools that we have used in the past, where we're basically saying, okay, well, look, if we look at your process and we look at your financial closing reporting process, today you having a hard time basically doing a hard close on a monthly basis. Okay, well, let's develop a plan today to see how we can put you in an area where you can close your books on a monthly basis, right? So for the audience here today, I know we have KPIs and metrics, and we're looking at it from a qualitative perspective, but also from a quantitative perspective, we're also looking at it as well to drive value within your business. We can go to the next slide, Karen. So in here for this general KPIs, this is the foundation, right? You have your income statement, you have your balance sheet, and you can understand and you can drive and put together specific KPIs to your business, right? But going back to my point earlier, is these KPIs are fine, but you need to be able to compare that to something else to see how you're doing and what action plans you can drive for. I'll put this back to you, Dan, so you can talk through that. I know we're almost on time, so I want to be mindful.
Yeah, for sure. And these are the non-financial metric examples, and these are going to vary greatly across industries. It's going to look different for a dentist than it will for a construction company or an architectural firm. But these are the day-to-day activities that you can adjust to see the outcomes that you want on your balance sheet and your profit and loss. Another thing I wanted to mention is that Carlos and I are putting together specific packages that only require the trial balance information from the chart of accounts. And, we'll mention this again at the end, but, we'll send you an email. And if you want to book a free consultation and look at what kind of data you can look at, Carlos will contact you for that. So there'll be different tiers. The first one just requires trial balance information. And then all the way down to the premium, where we can analyze your KPIs, your Google Analytics data, in addition to your chart of account stuff. And as we see here, the non-financial data. So doctor production, for example, with dentists, how much revenue per customer is each dentist taking in? And you can adjust the KPIs that govern that specific dentist to improve outcomes. So yeah, thanks, Carlos. That's all I got for this slide.
That sounds good. Steve, how are we doing on time?
Yeah, maybe we could just get to slide 16, and then I got a couple of questions that I want to make sure we fit in. So you want to go through the next slide, next steps, and then we can get to the questions?
Yeah, I think so. I think that's fine. We can do next steps. So you want to go to the next slide? Sounds good. So one of the things that we are doing with our clients, and that way we're trying to keep everyone informed here, is that our clients are right now in different stages, like Dan put it, right? So some of them are working on the financial reporting package. They need to have improvements on that. They want to do more. They want to do better, right? And that's where we have here on the left is we can schedule a meeting. We can talk through that, and we can help you improve what you have today, right? And with that, all we need is basically your trial balance information, your data, and then we can put together a quick proof of concept, right? And say, hey, here's what your financial reporting package should look like, and it's gonna drive value, and it will help you navigate your business better, right? The second piece of it is we have clients that they already like the financial reporting package. They don't wanna move away from that, but usually they come to us and say, hey, Carlos or Steve or Dan, tell me more about benchmarking. What other KPIs should I be looking at? How can I improve this? And then what is the action plans that I can put together that can help me drive and get closer to what I need to be, right? And the third piece of it is more related to how we can think ahead. And and what is my budgeting and forecasting process should look like, and then how can we have better projections for next year, right? And that's another area that is driving some of the discussions that we're having with our clients right now. But back to you, Steve, for some of the questions.
So one of the questions that's come up actually a couple of times during this webinar is about the technology. What do I need to know about the technology before I get started, and also what specific programs make sense for smaller scale companies? And just to quickly address both of those, we've got clients down to pretty small companies, single-digit $1 million types of organizations that are getting a lot of value out of performance management solutions like we've talked about. Spotlight's a great tool that's easy to get started with. We've used for a number of clients. We also have a couple of other proprietary packages that have like industry specific dashboards and sets of KPIs that we use with some clients. But you do want to keep it simple, and you do want to keep it pretty lightweight if you're a smaller company. And don't want to outlay a lot of capital or infrastructure to build out the initial stage. However, what I'll say is what you really want to do, and I'll allude to what Carlos just went through, is really understand what your current state reporting needs are, but also how you want to start to manage the business on a forward-looking basis, because the right tool set is going to be a combination of the technology that you're running in the back, how easy the EPM solution integrates with it, and then the types of cadences that you want to run forecasting, budgeting, financial reporting, and the like with, and then the difficulty in collecting the data. If you need workflow features to collect the data from different people in the organization, if you want to put process management in place too. So there's other considerations to make. Those are fairly easy discussions that we can have with you, over a Zoom call. So reach out to Carlos or myself if you'd like to just get on the phone and kind of talk through some of those ideas and have us point you in the right direction. The other piece of housekeeping that we need to do, as is our custom on our TRU Snacks webinars, is give away our snack basket. So this is going to be the second to last snack basket of 2020. So this is a big one. And the random drawing for this session has that snack basket going to Steve Schnippel from Catholic Charities. So Steve, somebody from our marketing department, will be in touch to get shipping information for that. Congratulations. Hope you enjoy it. Please join us next week. Next Thursday is going to be our last one of the year. We're going to talk about some of the hot cybersecurity issues that we've been seeing this year. In COVID, things have changed dramatically in this space. So I highly recommend joining us and understanding what to be on the lookout for, and how to guard against some of those cybersecurity risks that are out there now. And frankly, prepare for 2021, where the landscape probably looks very differently from a security and compliance perspective. So join us and Mike Camacho next Thursday for that. We've got a full slate of TRU Snacks webinars every week starting in January. So please be on the lookout for those schedules. Sign up. We'd love to see you guys join these webinars and hear from you afterwards. So we hope to connect with many of you. And for those who we don't get to meet, have a great holiday season. Happy New Year. And I want to thank Dan and Carlos for joining us today to work through performance management. So take care, everybody. Appreciate it.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.